This is not a home. It is a mausoleum of glass and stone, perfectly perched on a cliff in Santa Barbara so that I can watch every day a horizon of freedom that is denied to me. My late husband called it our nest, but his absence has revealed the truth. It was his display case, and I, the most expensive and forgotten object on exhibition. The California sun does not warm me. It passes right through me, exposing the dust that settles not only on the luxury furniture, but in my soul. Every marble surface is cold to the touch. Every glass panel reflects a loneliness as vast as the Pacific Ocean itself. The silence in here is a physical presence, a force that presses down on my shoulders and settles in my chest. I remember, like a distant dream, the sound of a child's laughter echoing through these halls. But the memory is fragile and dissipates like smoke. Now, the only constant sound is the crashing of the waves below, a relentless rhythm that doesn't sound like nature's song, but like the ticking of a clock reminding me that my time is running out in an absolute void. The sound of the sea is the sound of being slowly erased from the world. When I dare to face my reflection, I don't see myself. I see a stranger, a 75-year-old woman whose eyes have lost their light, as if the flame of who I once was had been suffocated long ago. My body, stooped and frail, is a map of all the battles I lost in silence. It is not age that weighs on me. It is disappointment. It is the burden of having become invisible to the one person whose gaze I most wished would see me, my son. I feel like a bird with golden wings, too heavy to fly, trapped in the most beautiful cage in the world. My hands tell the saddest story of all. They, which once had the firmness and audacity to design an entire collection that enchanted Paris, now tremble as they hold a simple cup of tea. The sound of porcelain clattering against the saucer is a symphony of my anxiety, a public announcement of my fragility. I remember the feel of charcoal on paper, the certainty of my strokes, the power to create beauty from nothing. Now, this same hand can barely sign its own name without the handwriting revealing the earthquake that lives inside me. The creator has been undone. The Sunday lunch ritual is a torture I inflict upon myself. Every week, a foolish and desperate part of me believes that maybe, this time, it will be different, that I will see a glimpse of the boy I raised, not the cold man he has become. I set the table with surgical precision, the silver cutlery aligned, the crystal glasses gleaming. It's a pathetic reenactment of a family that never truly existed, an attempt to build a beautiful memory on a foundation of pain. The food, when it arrives, tastes like ashes. His arrival is announced by a shiver down my spine. Gabriel enters, and the temperature of the room seems to drop 10 degrees. He wears wealth like armor, and beauty like a weapon. His blue eyes, bright and cold, assess me with the distance of a banker analyzing an asset. He doesn't see me. He inspects me. The kiss on my cheek is a glacial touch, an empty protocol that only highlights the abyss between us. He has not come to visit his mother. He has come to check on the state of his inheritance. Today, his gaze has a different glint, a predatory determination. He does not sit. Instead, he places a dark leather briefcase on the immaculate table. The object seems to absorb all the light in the room. My heart, a tired muscle, beats erratically against my ribs. I know that briefcase. It's the same one his father used to close deals, to seal the fate of other companies, of other people. Now, it is here, on my table, between my plate and his. It is a declaration of war disguised as a document, and I am the territory to be conquered. His voice, a sweetened poison, cuts through the silence. Mother, let's be realistic. Father was the architect of all this. A genius. He pauses, letting the adoration for his father hang in the air like an accusation against me. You were the heart of the home, I know. The condescension is suffocating, but the heart is fragile. Then he slides the briefcase toward me. Sign. Let me take care of his legacy. Protect you from yourself. The last part is said almost in a whisper, the cruelest of offenses disguised as concern. He didn't say, "You just chose the curtains," but the intention was the same. protect you from yourself. In those 4 words, he invalidated every decision I ever made, every sacrifice I endured, every sleepless night I spent. He turned me into a senile child, an incompetent in need of guardianship, a lifetime of love, the renunciation of a career, the dedication to him and his father. All of it was reduced to a certificate of incompetence. The pain is so sharp, so piercing, that for a moment I lose my breath. And in that instant, at the very bottom of humiliation, something happens. The pain becomes so unbearable that it transforms into something else. Like carbon under pressure turns into a diamond, my pain crystallizes into a cold, lucid fury. A strength I didn't know I still possessed. The strength of that young designer in Paris, the woman who believed in herself, awakens from a long slumber. I feel my back straighten, my chin lift. The trembling in my hands stops. The fire I thought was extinguished reignites. I look at him, not at my son, but at the man he has become, and for the first time, I see him clearly. I see the greed, the resentment, the emptiness he tries to fill with his father's money and power. And from my mouth, the simplest and most difficult word of my entire life emerges, not as a whisper, but with a firmness that surprises us both. No. The word echoes in the room, not loud, but dense, unbreakable. It is the sound of my soul reclaiming its existence. The transformation on his face is frightening. The mask of the loving, concerned son disintegrates, revealing an ugliness that comes from within. His blue eyes become 2 chips of ice. Disbelief quickly gives way to pure, undisguised contempt. He looks at me as if I were an insect that dared to defy him. The rejection of his request did not hurt his feelings. It wounded his pride, his sense of entitlement. He was not used to hearing the word no, especially from me. His voice, now devoid of any softness, is a razor. As you wish. He retrieves the briefcase with a brusque gesture. Then rot here in this house alone with your useless memories. He leans in, his face inches from mine, the venom on his breath. You will die alone, mother. And rest assured, I will not be at your funeral to hold your hand. He doesn't scream. His calmness is the most terrifying part. It is an emotional death sentence, delivered with the coldness of an executioner. He turns his back on me. Each of his steps on the marble is a nail being hammered into my coffin. The front door slams with a final boom, a sound that shatters the silence and my heart into 1,000 pieces. The echo fades, and I am left in the deepest silence I have ever known. The silence of being completely abandoned. He sentenced me to die alone, believing that would be my ruin. But in that moment, amidst the wreckage of my life, a new truth emerged. If I was going to die, it would not be as a tycoon's widow or a traitor's mother. It would be on my own terms. If you believe that rock bottom can be the foundation for a new beginning, subscribe to the channel and comment on which city you're watching from. The story of how I turned my death sentence into my reason for living is just beginning. For a time I cannot measure, I remain motionless. The echo of the slamming door finally dissipates, and the silence that remains is heavy, filled with unspoken words and a final cruelty. I wander through the house, an automaton in my own life, touching the cold surface of the piano no one plays, the spines of the books no one reads. Every luxury object is a silent testament to my failure. They were bought to fill a space, but the void inside me only widened, swallowing all the beauty and turning it into scenery for my loneliness. Gabriel was right about one thing. I was rotting in here. The pain is a physical wave that starts in my feet and rises, chilling my body. It is an ancient pain, one I had kept dormant for decades, but Gabriel's words have awakened it. I remember him, small, holding my hand and saying my drawings were magic. I remember sacrificing a scholarship in Milan because his father said a family needed an anchor, and I was his anchor. I believed him. I anchored myself to a promise of love and respect that I now realize was just a port of convenience for them. The love I gave was used as a chain. I climb the stairs, each step a monumental effort. My knees protest, but it is a welcome physical pain, a distraction from the agony tearing at my chest. I don't go to my bedroom, a sanctuary of insomnia and sad memories. I continue on toward a small door at the end of the hall, the attic door, a place I have avoided for years, a cemetery of things that once mattered. Dust covers everything, a veil over the past. The air is heavy, with the smell of old wood and stopped time, the smell of forgetfulness. In the center of the attic, covered by a yellowed sheet, is a dark wooden trunk. It belonged to my mother. It is the only thing in this house that is truly mine, that came from my previous life. My hands, still trembling, struggle with the rusty brass latch. When it finally opens, the creaking sound is the only sound in the universe. For a moment, I am afraid to look inside, afraid of finding only more proof of a wasted life, of dreams that have turned to dust like everything else up here. But what I find are not photo albums of a fake happy family. What I find are them, my design sketchbooks, dozens of them, stacked. The leather of the covers is worn, the pages yellowed with age, but they are there. Hesitantly, I pick up the first one. The label reads, Paris, 1968. My heart stops for a beat. I open it, and the woman I was leaps from the pages. The drawings, made with quick, confident strokes, still pulse with an energy, a passion I thought had long since died. They are not just dresses. They are ideas. They are dreams stitched onto paper. I remember the feeling of sitting in a small cafe on the Rive Gauche, the smell of coffee and tobacco in the air, my sketchbook open, the whole world of fabric waiting to be cut and shaped by my imagination. I was alive. I was fearless. I had a voice, an identity that didn't depend on being someone's wife or someone's mother. I was Clara, the designer. And looking at those drawings is like finding a lost piece of my soul. A tear falls on the page, smudging the ink of a sketch of an elegant evening gown. But it is not a tear of sadness. It is a tear of anger. A sacred fury begins to burn the ice in my veins. Gabriel, with his cruelty, his contempt, his greed. He and his father didn't just ask me to give up a career. They convinced me to give up on myself. They made me believe that this woman, the woman in the sketchbooks, was frivolous, unimportant compared to the empire they were building. You just chose the curtains. His phrase comes back, but now it doesn't hurt me. It fuels me. I look at the drawings, at the irrefutable proof of my talent, of my worth. The money he covets so much, the $56 million my husband left me, suddenly takes on a new meaning. It is not an inheritance, a compensation for my widowhood. It is a weapon. It is a tool. It is my chance to prove, not to Gabriel, but to myself, that the woman in this sketchbook did not die. She was only sleeping. He will not erase who I am, I whisper to the dusty attic. The words have a weight, a truth that resonates in the silence. I close the sketchbook with a new determination. I walk down the stairs, no longer as a fragile ghost, but with a purpose. My body still aches, but my posture is straighter. For the first time in decades, I am not thinking about what I have lost, but about what I can build. My family's legacy will not be defined by his greed, but by my resilience. My first call is not to a friend or relative. It is to my bank manager, a man who has always treated me with polite condescension. This time, my voice is firm. I give clear instructions. I speak of investments, of liquidating assets. On the other end of the line, there is a shocked silence, followed by a new tone of respect. I was no longer the naive widow. I was his client, and he was realizing it. It was the first small victory, the first stone I laid in the foundation of my new life. But Gabriel does not stand still. His threat was not empty. 2 weeks later, the first article appears in an online tabloid. The headline is cruel. Millionaire widow losing her mind? Son fears the worst. The article, filled with anonymous sources close to the Yao family, paints me as a senile, confused old woman, surrounded by opportunistic advisors who are stealing the family fortune. The photo they use is one where I look lost and frail, taken in a moment of distraction. I feel his poison at work. The outside world begins to close in. Longtime friends, Couples with whom we had dinner for 30 years are suddenly too busy to take my calls. Their looks of pity and suspicion are like small cuts on my skin. The isolation that was once emotional now becomes physical, a wall that Gabriel is building around me, brick by brick of lies and innuendos. He is not just trying to take my money, he is trying to erase me socially, to turn me into the pariah he believes I am. His lawyers take action. I receive a formal notification. Gabriel has filed a petition in court to be declared my legal guardian, alleging my mental incapacity to manage my own affairs. The document is a collection of half-truths and blatant lies, citing my reclusiveness and erratic financial decisions as proof of my deterioration. The cold, impersonal bureaucracy of the law is his new weapon, and it is terrifying. I feel the ground beneath my feet begin to give way. The hardest battle, however, is not in the courtroom. It is within my own mind. Gabriel's voice has become a constant echo, repeating his accusations. You are weak. You are old. You are incapable. All my insecurities, all my fears, take on his voice. At night, I am haunted by flashbacks of other humiliations. The way my husband would dismiss my opinions at business dinners, Gabriel's sneer when I got the name of one of his partners wrong. My greatest fear is the seed of doubt he planted. What if he's right? What if I am just a foolish old woman living on memories who can't do anything on her own? The grandeur of my plan, to build something new, a legacy of my own, seems like a delusional fantasy in the face of the brutal reality of his opposition. The contrast between the confident woman in my sketchbooks and the frightened woman looking in the mirror is stark. Doubt is a more dangerous enemy than Gabriel's greed. I cling to my sketchbooks like a castaway to a piece of driftwood. Every morning, before speaking with my own lawyers, I spend an hour in the attic. I touch the pages, retrace the outlines of the drawings with my fingers. I breathe in the scent of that paper, that ink. It is a reminder. It is an anchor. But this time, it is an anchor that moors me to myself, to my own strength. I am not alone in this fight. The young Clara, full of dreams, is here with me, whispering for me not to give up. The legal process drags on, consuming days in meetings and depositions. My lawyers are competent but skeptical. They advise me to settle, to give up a portion of the fortune to Gabriel in exchange for peace. It's the easiest path, Mrs. Almeida, they say. But I don't want the easiest path. The easiest path is what I followed for 50 years, and it brought me here, to this loneliness, to this pain. This time, I would choose the difficult path. The tension mounts with each day. The stress manifests in my body. I lose my appetite. Sleepless nights become the norm. There are moments when the urge to simply surrender, to give Gabriel what he wants so he will leave me alone, is almost overwhelming. It is a terrible temptation, the promise of silence, of an end to the fight. But then I remember his eyes, the contempt in his voice when he sentenced me to die alone. And I know that surrender would not be peace. It would be the end. I develop a new ritual. Every night I sit at the empty dining table, not with a plate of food, but with a blank sheet of paper and a charcoal pencil. At first, my strokes are hesitant, shaky. But, little by little, the memory in my muscles returns. I start to draw again. Not evening gowns, but faces. Faces of elderly women with wrinkles that tell stories. Faces with eyes that have seen too much, some bright, others tired, but all with a spark of life. It is in these drawings that I find my clarity. I begin to formulate what I will do with the money. It will not be a monument to my vanity. It will be a refuge, a place for people like me, people who have been discarded, deemed invalid or obsolete by their own families or by society. A place where they can rediscover their own talents, their own passions, just as I was doing in my dusty attic. The idea begins to take shape, to become real on paper. The emotional connection I could no longer have with my son, I begin to build with these imaginary figures, with the community I dream of creating. They become my family, my motivation. I fight for them, for all the Claras out there, silenced and forgotten in their own homes. The pain of Gabriel's abandonment does not disappear, but it transforms. It ceases to be just my pain and becomes the fuel for a much larger purpose. The hearing date is set, the day of the final confrontation. The fear is still there, a cold knot in my stomach. Gabriel's voice still whispers in my mind. But now, there is another voice, a stronger one. The voice of the young designer, the voice of the woman who draws at night, the voice that whispers to the faces on the paper. We will show them. The external battle is about to reach its climax, but the internal battle, the most important one, I was already beginning to win. The day in court arrives like an announced storm. The air in the room is heavy with the smell of polished wood and a cold, impersonal justice. I feel small in the hard chair, a fish out of water in this ocean of legal jargon and dark suits. Across the room, I see Gabriel. He looks perfectly at ease, chatting with his lawyers, projecting an image of confidence and righteousness. He is the concerned son, the responsible heir. I am the unstable old woman. His script has been well rehearsed. When Gabriel is called to the stand, he walks with a practiced gravity. His voice is an instrument of manipulation. He speaks of his father with a reverence bordering on worship, painting him as an irreplaceable titan. He speaks of our family, of our legacy, including me in a narrative from which he has spent his entire life excluding me. He is building an image of family unity that he himself destroyed, and he does it so that my refusal to give him control seems like a betrayal. Then he turns to me. His blue eyes meet mine, and he pours out his poisonous compassion. He talks about my confusion, my fragility. He describes how I forgot a neighbor's name, how I burned the roast the other day, turning minor memory lapses into symptoms of severe mental deterioration. And then, the masterpiece. A single, perfect tear rolls down his face as he tells the judge that his only fear is that I will squander his father's life's work. As I listen to him, an unexpected calm settles over me. The woman I was a few months ago would have crumbled, would have believed every word, would have drowned in guilt and shame. But now, I see the performance. The pain of his lies is still there, a constant ember, but it no longer burns me. I see a desperate man, a mediocre actor in his final act. He is not trying to protect me. He is trying to cage me to steal what is in the cage. Clara Almeida. The bailiff's voice calls my name, and the sound of it seems to anchor me in the present. I stand up. I feel everyone's eyes on me, the curiosity, the pity. I take the first step toward the witness stand, and then the next. The walk seems to take an eternity. With each step, I leave behind the invisible woman, the curtain decorator. I am not walking to my defense. I am walking to my manifesto. I sit in the chair, which is uncomfortably high. The wood is hard against my back. My lawyer begins to frame a question, but I raise a hand to stop him, a small but firm gesture. I will not answer his accusations. I will tell my truth. My eyes meet Gabriel's, the glimmer of confidence on knee. His face falters for an instant. He didn't expect this. He expected tears, confusion. He did not expect serenity. My voice, when I speak, does not tremble. It is lower than usual, but every word is clear. Do you remember, Gabriel? I begin, and the room falls completely silent. The dress I designed for your high school graduation? The personal and unexpected question catches him off guard. I see a flash of confusion in his eyes. The legal armor he has built around himself has no defense against a memory. I do not wait for an answer. I continue, my voice gaining strength. I didn't have much money back then. Your father was strict with household expenses. I used the money I saved from the market for 3 months to buy that blue silk fabric. Your favorite. I pause, letting the memory settle in the room. You said you were ashamed to wear it, that it looked like something a poor person would wear. You preferred to wear a store-bought suit that your father bought. The impact of the memory is visible on his face. He shifts uncomfortably in his chair. I look directly at him. You accuse me of living in the past, of being stuck in memories, but the only thing that moves your future is money. My future. I stop, And for the first time, I turned my back on him. Physically. Symbolically. He is no longer the center of my story. I turn to the judge, a man with a stern face but whose eyes now show a trace of curiosity. My future, Your Honor. I have decided to build. My voice is now strong, filled with a purpose I feel in every fiber of my being. With the $56 million that my son believes I am incapable of managing, I will not be financing an old age of luxury and loneliness. I look at my lawyer, who is staring at me, astonished, and then back at the judge. I have a better plan. I announce, here and now, the creation of the Dawn Shelter Foundation. The words come out with a clarity and a certainty I have never had. It will be a center, a home, for men and women of my age. Talented people, full of life, who have been taught by their children or society that their lives are over. People who, like me, were told that their only value was in the past. At the Dawn Shelter, we will offer workshops in art, music, woodworking, design. My voice fills with passion. We will create a place where experience is not seen as old age, but as wisdom, where hands that tremble can teach, and voices that were silenced can sing again. It will not be a nursing home to wait for death. It will be a community to celebrate life, a second, third, fourth chance. I conclude, looking firmly at the judge, but my words are for everyone in the room. Gabriel is right about one thing. My past matters, and it is because of my past, of the woman I was and am becoming, that I know this is my true legacy. We will prove him, and everyone who thinks like him, wrong. The silence that follows is different. It is not a silence of embarrassment or waiting. It is a silence of weight, of understanding. Gabriel's castle of lies has crumbled in a few minutes, not by legal arguments but by the force of an authentic purpose. He is no longer the concerned son. He is the man who was ashamed of the dress his mother made. He is pale, exposed, his credibility turned to dust. I rise from the chair and, with the same calm with which I arrived, I return to my seat. The walk back is lighter. I do not need to wait for the judge's verdict. In that moment, in the court of my own life, I had already won. The woman who sits down is not the same one who stood up. She is no longer a victim. She is the founder of the Dawn Shelter. The judge's verdict was almost a formality. The case was dismissed, Gabriel's petition rejected with a comment from the judge about the impressive and noble vision I had presented. I did not feel a spike of euphoria, but rather a deep, serene sense of relief. It was over. I looked across the room and saw Gabriel leaving hastily, his face an impenetrable mask of fury and humiliation. He did not look in my direction. I was, finally, free of his judgment. My first decision as a legally sane woman and master of my own destiny was to call the best real estate agent in Santa Barbara. I put the house on the cliff, that magnificent golden cage, up for sale. The agent was shocked, talking about the property's value, about the spectacular view. I just smiled. He didn't understand that I wasn't selling a house. I was selling a prison. I was shedding the weight of a past that was not mine, and the feeling was more liberating than any deed could ever record. A few weeks later, I walked through those immense rooms for the last time. They were empty, stripped of their expensive furniture and their silent oppression. The echo of my footsteps on the marble was no longer lonely, but hopeful. Without the furniture, without the artwork, without the memories, the house was just what it had always been, a structure of glass and stone, a beautiful but soulless skeleton. Its power over me had completely vanished. I stopped on the balcony, the place where I had so often cried in silence, and looked out at the Pacific. The ocean no longer seemed like an unreachable frontier. For the first time, it looked like an invitation. The salt breeze on my face no longer carried the scent of old tears, but the promise of new beginnings, of other harbors, of a horizon that now belonged to me. I took a deep breath, filling my lungs with the air of my own freedom. I walked to the front door, the same one Gabriel had slammed so violently. My hand rested on the brass handle for a moment. I felt neither anger nor sadness, just a sense of peace, of a cycle closing. I pulled the door, and it shut with a soft, definitive click. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. Everything I wanted was ahead of me. Months later, the scene is different. The air doesn't smell of the sea, but of a mixture of oil paint, freshly cut wood, and fresh coffee. I am in the main hall of the Dawn Shelter. It is not a gray institution, but a vibrant space, flooded with natural light, with walls covered in paintings and the sound of soft music and distant laughter. This place, once just a dream born from pain, was now real, tangible, and full of life. My place is not in a luxurious office, managing the foundation from a distance. My place is here, in an art studio, wearing a paint-stained apron. My hair is completely white now, but my eyes shine with a light I haven't seen in 50 years. My hands, the same ones that trembled holding a teacup, are now steady, holding a paintbrush with the confidence of someone who has rediscovered her purpose. Beside me, I am teaching a lady named Helena, who was a history teacher for 40 years, how to mix shades of blue to paint the sky. She tells me about ancient Rome as she paints, and I tell her about Monet's colors. There is no hierarchy here. We are all teachers and students. We have created a community not based on blood ties or obligations, but on mutual respect and the shared joy of creation. I look around. In one corner, a former engineer who was forced to retire now meticulously builds a ship in a bottle, his hands surprisingly agile. In another, a group of women, who were grandmothers and wives their entire lives, now write poetry together, reading their verses to each other aloud, their voices sometimes faltering, but always full of pride. We have built a new family, a tribe of rescued souls. The money, that fortune that nearly destroyed my life, has been transformed. It ceased to be a number in a bank account and became the sound of a carpenter's saw, the smell of bread baking in the communal kitchen, the color of a freshly painted canvas. It became the tool that turned invisibility into dignity, loneliness into belonging. Real wealth, I discovered, is not what you accumulate, but what you distribute. Helena shows me her sky. It is a vibrant blue, full of life and movement. Her eyes shine with a pure joy. I never thought I could do something like this, she whispers, almost reverently. The smile I give her is the most genuine I have ever felt. It is a happiness that doesn't come from the outside, but that blossoms from within, from seeing a human soul flourish again. This is my true empire. For a brief moment, I think of Gabriel. There is no bitterness in my heart, only an immense distance. I imagine him in his world of transactions and market values, a world that now seems so small and colorless to me. He wanted the money my husband built, but he never understood the value of things that money cannot buy. He was left with the material kingdom. I chose to build a kingdom of spirits. The afternoon sun streams through the studio window, bathing everything in a warm golden light. I look outside and see the garden we planted together, full of imperfect and beautiful flowers. I see friends sitting on benches, sharing stories, laughing. The future is no longer a threat, a time of decline to be feared. It is a blank canvas, and all of us here have brushes in our hands, ready to paint. The pain Gabriel caused me was the seed, but the garden that has blossomed from it is proof that our true legacy is not what we inherit, nor what is taken from us. It is what we, with courage and love, choose to build upon the ruins. It is the beauty we create from our broken hearts.